Hello everyone, thank you for taking the time to view this video. Let's begin by defining a quadratic equation. Now, a quadratic equation in one variable is an equation that can be written in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, where a, b, and c are real numbers, and where a is not equal to 0. This form is what we call the standard form of writing a quadratic equation, which is basically, to say it in plain words, it's simply getting all your terms on the left side and 0 on the right. In other words, setting the terms equal to 0 so that you can solve for x. Now, you can easily spot or notice a quadratic equation because if you notice that when you see a quadratic equation, out of all the terms, that the highest degree of all the terms is the squared term, then that is a quadratic equation. So here's an example that you see here. On the first one, notice x squared minus 25. X squared, out of all the terms, the x squared is the highest degree. You have a constant there. You don't have an x term, but it is still a quadratic equation. Looking at the second example, the second example is also a quadratic equation. This one is in standard form where I have all my terms on the left side and 0 on the right. Notice the highest degree of that one is also the squared term. Now the last one, notice this one is not in standard form. So to be in standard form, all your terms would need to be on the left and 0 on the right. Now, there are several methods out there for solving quadratic equations. You can solve quadratic equations by using the zero factor property, the square root property, by completing the square, or the quadratic formula. So this video is going to focus only on how to solve quadratic equations by using the zero factor property. Let's go over the rules for solving an equation using the zero factor property. Step 1 is to make sure that the equation is in standard form. If it's not in standard form, then you need to rewrite it in standard form. Step 2, set the equation equal to 0 and factor the left side. Step 3, take each parentheses on the left side and set them equal to 0 to solve for x. Example 1 using the zero factor property. When you have an equation and you note that it is an equation that can probably be easily factored, then the most efficient method for solving would be to use the zero factor property. Now recall, with the zero factor property, the first step is to make sure that the equation is in standard form. And since the equation is already in standard form, we're going to go ahead and proceed with factoring, taking the left side and factoring it. So when we do that, that factors into x plus 4 times x minus 2. Our next step then is to take each parentheses and set them equal to 0 and then solve for x. So we need to take x plus 4 and set it equal to 0, and then take x minus 2 and then set it equal to 0 as well. So when we do that, it looks like this. And in order to solve for x, on the first one, we will need to subtract 4 from each side, and on the second one, to solve for x, we would need to add 2 to each side. And so x equals -4 and x equals 2, so our solution set then would be -4 and 2.